Okay, Ruchim Abayim. We know that Megafin is a chaint in Yimei Arachamim Ba'aslichas. In the 40 days that Moshe Rabbeinu was standing on the mountain, davening for Bnei Yisrael from Rosh Chodesh Elul till Yom Kippur, when the Eibishter said Salachti Kitvarech, Moshe Rabbeinu was on the mountain. And B'meilet Zman Mesugel Bechlal, so Zechuf Eben. And when we find ourselves by a Mesiba, where I know the weather may be hard, but we're represented by many agudos and kehillos, which get together on a daily basis to learn. We have together with us Magidei Shiurim, and we have of Igud Abrechim, we have Rabbi Aster, which is Shiurim are Mefursum, and go Chol Katzvei Tevel. We have Rabbi Lustig in Beis Eliezer Yitzchak. We're going to have with us Rabbi Effenheimer, which gives a daily shir in Chevra Shas, and Rabbi Shanowitz in Shainshul, Rabbi Rosenstein in Geshem Center. Baruch Hashem, that the Welt is full of Torah. But Olam Katan Zal Adam, and we have to care not only for the general musig that it's marked on a paper, but taket to make sure that we get raised up. And that's what Rabbi Yosef said, that on such a day he makes a Yom Tov L'Rabbanon. That when it's a Freilich Tag for those that are Messiahim, it's a simcha for everyone. And this brings up not only is a simcha for them, and it brings the Oir of Torah to each and every one of those Mishtachim in the Shurim, that obviously they're the Chsanim, they're the Messiahim, and they actually hold, like the Alter Rebbe in Perek A speaks Barichis, they anthalten their the seichel types of muskel, and their seichel is makif the Eibishter, and the Eibishter is makifon bechada machta, and the yichud she'ein yichud acher kamoyu nimtza klal. So, and when they reach a perek b'Torah, which they have concluded, it's a huge simcha, and it's a huge simcha not only for them. It sounds from Rabbi Yosef that Avad Yom Tov L'Rabbanon was not only for himself but for everybody, because when Alakus is nisgala bayener, because Alakus is achdus, it brings a gilui, brings lichtigkeit, brings simcha, brings bracha for everybody. So we wanna thank all those that are being mamshach, drawing down this ur bechlal through being Messiah, and befrat making our shchuna. What the Rebbe many times said, Kanzi Vashem es bracha, being megala that bracha by making it a makam Torah, that befrat in a way like the Rebbe talks about, the Alter Rebbe's marchiv, that it's lapshas ba'olamis is when it's beseder mesuda, that it consistently every single day, tagayin tagois, they come, they learn, they stellen sich weg. So yeshikoyach, let's say l'chaim together. It's also a Chassidus of bringing. I'll mention we're in a special day. Please raise your cups. Day of the Gimashim Kareves and Mechlal Hin Tashemei Alav. You know that the whole one of the makar of Day of the Gimashim Kareves is the fact that Chachamim Asru Pitam and Yenam Tzad B'nai Seyem, talking about Stam Yenam. And the reason for that is because it brings people together. So Meruba Mida Toiva, when we sit together and we join together, it's not a whole bunch of pratim, specific people from specific shurim that are celebrating this day. We're all celebrating together. L'chaim, l'chaim, kishem, shezachinu, l'sayim, Mesechta Sukkah. And we're going to begin the next Mesechta. We're going to begin Mesechta Beitza, Mesechta Yom Tif, the Rebbe refers to it. And we should be zoichet to anfangen in a Messiah sein many Mesechtes and become a Spischon Legvura with the Alter Rebbe sagt, become a resting place, a host to the Eibishter himself. Chaim l'chaim. Mazel to mazel. I was the emissaries that I was meant to bring a little bit about the Rebbe's brother and about a special trip that I was zeichet to do to go on together with one of them, Simon, with Rabbi Telshevsky, and it was supposed to come at the end. Razevi, the Magidei Shiurim are still on the way. We have a few here, but those that are officially Messiah and Maschil, Rabbi Oppenheimer and Rabbi Shanowitz, I'll begin with the Nakuda that I think is very relevant for us to bring. It's a special day. Chavdalid Elul, Chavhei Elul, is the day of that was accepted as the Rebbe's brother's yahrzeit. Shem Yinkum Damai. The Rebbe made reference to this in a famous Ksav Yad when the Rebbe was referring to the Holocaust. The Rebbe said, "I myself." People were thinking that the fact that Yidden continue believing the Eibishter is kilu, they're mekabel the fact that what the Eibishter did. They don't have a taina. So the Rebbe responded and wrote, "I myself also lost in the Holocaust many relatives," and the Rebbe mentioned his Baba Rachel, and a brother, which was Rebero. Now, I'll tell you where I come into this picture. Be'etzem, Rabbi Talshevsky and myself are highly motivated to get Talmidim to learn 12 Prakim Tanya Balpeh. It's a Chakika in the Moyach Adam, and it's available there for any time he walks in the street and makes it a Makam Ter like the Friedrich Rebbe Koch, the Rebbe brings it Nayim Yom. And Bechlal, we know that Tanya is that Sefer Yivku Meimim Galusa, and you have to have your ammo always on you. This is the ammunition the Alter Rebbe gave us to Sefer Tanya. So for our time, it's extremely Nagia. Every kid should know Tanya Balpeh. Listen, Oisius from Torah. And so the big prize really is we go to Hadich, the Alter Rebbe and Yezhin, to the Mechaber, and we stellen for Visa and Soldaten in Deira Shvi that they're Shvi Larisha. They're Nanas al Gabe Anak, and they have it eingekritzt in Maya. One of the places we go is to Yekaterinoslavl, then the Dnipropetrovsk. Now, was is the other? So when I was preparing, you have to know Avuma Gate, so I'm thinking, you go to a caver, go to a Tzion of a tzaddik, they're having a place. Is he standing there? Who's buried in Yekaterinoslavl? In Yekaterinoslavl? Ma'aseh Bepoyel, the only one that's buried there, Be'etzem, is the Rebbe's brother. So I was thinking, Be'etzem, okay, I mean, it's a huge inyan when you know, as we know now, or we know today, that there's Eidos that in addition to the fact that the Nazis, Yimach Shemam B'Shem Zichram, when they came in, anyone that was disabled, they lied there, so there was an entire hospital that they wiped out. But based on Eidos that they heard afterwards, it's known to us that Yidden, they besides just killing them, they did this specific ashchasim, and b'meila, there's bleed selshel safik. The Rebbe's brother is from those that it says that ein acher nichnas b'mchitzasim. When we're talking about a person that was nareg al kiddush Hashem because he's a Yid, and okay, so sahoy chazach, and it's very special. And we know I could mention a few things. I'll mention a few things that the Rebbe said about his brother. So a few things the Rebbe said. We know about the Rebbe's brother is that at some point there was a Tomchei Tmimim in Yekaterinoslavl, and he was on the board of Tomchei Tmimim. The board wasn't just a fancy board just to be a board member. It was a person that put himself on the line, and he made it happen. He gathered, it was in the illegal years, and he made sure they had food and clothing, v'chulu. And then later on, he was also arrested. We find that he was busy in the days of the Gepa. There were other Yidden that were arrested, and he went on Mesiras Nefesh. He would bring them food until ultimately he was arrested. After that, when he came out, he was over there, and he was sick. He was in that hospital until he was killed al Kiddush Hashem. Now, which date is it? So that's a discussion. At the Rebbe, there was I think it's in Luach HaYom Yom in the first years, that the Rebbe marked down in the actual Yom Yom different yahrzeits. And near Chavhei Tishrei, not Chavhei Elul, not Chavdal Tishrei, it's near Chavhei Elul, it's Chavhei Tishrei, not Chavdal Elul. it says the Rebbe wrote Beryl, but near Chafei Tishrei, if something was written, but it was ripped out. Ma'aseh B'Poyel Ershin Tafshin Nun, the Rebbe by a Farbrengen started discussing on that day Mishnayis, and they asked the Rebbe, the Manichim that were being Magia the Sicha, what is this? The Rebbe said it's about Chafei Tishrei. The Rebbe said that's his Baba. So they understood that Beryl was the name that was ripped out from the. So today is the yahrzeit of the Rebbe's brother, Reb Beryl. And if no, the Rebbe's Baba is Tishrei, and Chavei Elul is the Rebbe's brother. We know that by the Rebbe's Chasana, the Rebbe had a brother. His name was Reb Shmuel, and what's very interesting for those between us, myself, that are married to sisters and brothers, that they're two brothers married to two sisters, is a famous mine of the Rebbe Rashab, a letter of the Rebbe Rashab, that in order to be yotze the inyan of the tzavah of Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, they shouldn't live in the same city. And this letter is actually written to the Rebbe's father, because the Rebbe's father had a brother that was married to Rebbe Simchana's sister. The Rebbe's father's brother his name was Reb Shmuel, and he was also married to a daughter of Reb Meir Shlomi Yanofsky. And actually, in the time that Reb Leivik was the Rav in Yekaterinoslav, the Rebbe's brother Reb Shmuel remained in the city where his shver lived, which was Reb Meir Shlomi Yanofsky, who was the Rav of Nikolaev. And ultimately, when Reb Meir Shlomi Yanofsky passed away, Reb Shmuel took over the Rabbanos of Nikolaev. B'cholifin, by the Rebbe's Chasana, so Reb Shmuel told the Rebbe's father that to host Sheina Mebel. Sheina Mebel literally means furniture. You have beautiful furniture. And he was referring to the Rebbe, the Reb Leivik's sons, the oldest one, Mendel, Beryl, and Label. And he was mekabel that. So I want to share, and in the context of Achayit and Aliboy, the Tsarske Mishpacha, so we don't kommt nicht zu nannt, ist so verbrennt werden bei Gachalosan. What I do want to share is that when we went, and already a few times, when we went with this group of boys that learned this huge feat, learned 12 prakim tiny balpet chazer in front of the Alter Rebbe. So I was thinking, we're going to Yekaterinoslav. Why? How do you explain that, boy? Why are we going to Yekaterinoslav? It's not sightseeing. So the Pashta Anacha, we know, is one of the explanations given why Taka did the Rebbe put in at the Akdam of Hayom Yom or Zarol Chassidei Chabad. The Rebbe put in the Toldos of Rabbi Seinu Nesienu. What's the? So I've seen a hezber that just like when someone goes out or joins the army, they don't teach him first. They don't teach him right away how to hold a gun. That comes much later. First thing they teach him is about the family of the Tsar, and he has to know the whole history. Why is it relevant? Because who are you representing? Where you come from? Where they come from? So it's negea to go see. But I want to tell you that when I got there, it's a different Metzias. And I want to try to share with you a little bit of what it means to be in Yekaterinoslav, to be in what was the Dnepropetrovsk. When you're walking the streets, you notice an unbelievable fact. That the Eibishter at Oizgestellt, the Eibishter cut out, through the Rebbe Rashab, cut out the Rebbe's chinuch and prepared him for what we know is the Nasi of Deir Shvi. If you think about it, the Rebbe was born in Tafresh Samach Beis. Till Tafresh Pei, Beis Nissen, it's a ribu. The Rebbe was 18 years old, never went to the Rebbe. Every poops over here comes to the Rebbe with it. Not only that, what's even more shocking is there is Eidus, I don't know, I haven't seen it 100% verified, that the Beryl, Hashem and Kamdama that we're talking about, was by the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe Rashab was Mishtashei Imai, he spoke with him. He was a Charif, it was a big Mukhshar and a very Sharfer. And there's also a description of him in his youth, he was from those that learned together in Cheder. There are, I think in Gem, in the video, they have one of the friends that learned over there, Yeshayahu Sar, I think his name is, and the Sneh, exactly the name. They learned in the same Cheder. And Reb Leivik was the Rav of the whole Yekaterinslav, which was extremely novel, because before Reb Levi Yitzchak came there was the Fruma Kehila, and there was the federation type of modern Yidden that was getting together. The Bund, they had the Bund was there, and all different organizations that Nalmal Glicklich gemacht haben Yisrael. So they had over there, and they were fighting the Rav Levi Yitzchak should not come to be there up there. And they stood up against him. The Misnagdim didn't want, and the Fruma didn't want, and the Freya didn't, nobody wanted. And the Rebbe Rashab was personally involved in getting Reb Leivik in there. And we'll soon see. I want to tell you that all this, what dawned on me when we were there, is all of a sudden I discovered that all the Zechraynis of Chassidim that you see, that they're Agalabt and Ashtetl, and the only thing they knew was Svarim and Farbrengens and Chassidim Zusammen. That was not the Rebbe's upbringing. The Rebbe was born in America of Ukraine. Mamish, it's, and you see that, you mamish see how the fact that the Rebbe Rashab, besides obviously the shlichus, the Rebbe Rashab sent the Rebbe's father on, and that he was a Rav, and he went in the serious nefesh b'poil, and he passed away because of his milchamas for Yiddishkeit. But what you find is, what's really amazing is that you see the Rebbe was brought up in a stud, and the Rebbe never saw the Rebbe Rashab, because the Rebbe was a Nasi of our generation. The Rebbe is the Nasi of our generation. The Rebbe was set for bringing Yiddishkeit da in America, and the Rebbe Rashab Pashut made sure that he's in Azazar city, and breathing the streets where you see the place where the Rebbe Leivik spoke about Mesiras Nefesh. The shuls exist, the places exist, and where he was arrested, where you could see the place where Rebbe Tzimchana came, where he was incarcerated at the beginning, until they sent him away. He was over there in the KGB offices in Yekaterinslav. You could see the place, the doors where Rebbe Tzimchana came and banged and asked, is he there? And she brought him kasher essen and tried to get him in. And when you notice this, you see Vos Heis Lebedik Mesiras Nefesh. Ota Tzion. So it's a connection of neshamas. When you go to a place where Mesiras Nefesh was breath, the ear, the luft, you're going in Gaston where the Rebbe's father was the Mara da Asra and is the Mara da Asra, and what this and the Rebbe and his brothers and Rebbe Tzimchana were all not only shutfim to this Mesiras Nefesh, they were active partners. There's a shul over there where the Rebbe spoke, where the Rebbe organized people, Pashut Begashmis, to guard the Yidden, many tremendous things. So, when we're talking about Bachayit and Aliba and a day that's shaykh to the Rebbe's Mishpacha, I think for us, what's the main bepoil is if we live Heintige Teg, say a little shar from Maisa. And there's a Yid that was in Russia. He was a chassid, he was a sheikhet, and his son had already left Russia. He wasn't from. His son, I don't know how from he was. He wasn't mamish from. And he used to always send messages to his son, Gei bazuch de Zayda, go to Dedishka. And he would write back to his father that is Zeir Veit. It's very far away from me. So, okay, it's very far. Now he's thinking to go to the Rebbe, you go off on broken glass, you go to the Rebbe, but okay, it's very far. He left Russia and he came to visit his son, and he discovered his son lived in Queens. That's 20 minutes from Crown Heights. Okay? And it's a kichap, he said, kichap, he ripped his hair out of his head. Das heißt weit. And I want to say that we have to take this story personally, because the emes is that in America, for a person to give up 20 minutes to come from his time to do something, let's say, das heißt Mesiras Nefesh. Das heißt weit. And the fact that the Rebbe and the Rebbe's mishpacha grew up and were on shlichus of the Rebbe Rashab, servicing a community that were not interested. It wasn't a Chassidish kehillah, and it was bringing Yid and Yiddishkeit and going out of their way and making sure that we was verstehen mehr and what the Rebbe is makter. I think this, if there's a vachayit and a liba of the fact that Rebbe passed away over there on Mesiras Nefesh, and it's a day of the Rebbe's mishpacha, that we have to have Mesiras Nefesh done. We have to have a Mesiras Nefesh over here in America for Limda Torah. And Limda Torah doesn't just mean to learn Torah. It means geben Torah, become a noisen Torah. Push it to another Yid. And it's beyond that also. It's not like a vertel, let's say, to be mechazik another Yid. And I think it takes the Seich Mesiras Nefesh. So from strengthening ourselves, obviously, bigger Mesiras Nefesh is greater and better. But aber 20 minut das heißt weit is something that we really have to think about ourselves and take seriously on Azat Tag. So l'chaim, I think we'll move right on. We said enough for Vachayit in the Libre. Now we have to do it practice. Also zu lernen zusammen, zu kochen sich zusammen, verbringen zusammen. L'chaim, Lilu Nishmas, L'zeichen Nishmas, Reb Doiber, Reb Levi Yitzchak, Shalom Zalom Na'aliyah, and we'll now be Mechabed, Rabbi Oppenheimer. To be Messiah, Masech the Sukkah, Rabbi Oppenheimer, besides all the milas and everybody knows Tanakh and Nachmar, the Shir and Allah he gives every Sunday. Rabbi Oppenheimer gives a daily Shir in Chevra Shas over here in Kingston. Everyone's invited. Rabbi Oppenheimer, please see him Masech the Sukkah.
The Gemara finishes off. The Gemara is finishing off the Mishnah had mentioned about Mishmeres Bilga that was penalized in a few different ways and two different reasons. One is because of Miriam Bas Bilga, and the other one is because the Mishmar as a whole were careless about coming on time. So the Gemara says, I understand, according to the opinion that the Mishmar was late in coming, that explains why we penalized the whole Mishmar. If you're going to say it's because of Miriam Bas Bilga, you're going to say because of his daughter, he himself, the father, gets canceled. Like people say, what child talks about in the market, comes either from his mother or his father. So from his father or his mother. So if she talked that way about the Mizbeach, it means that she heard that at home. So the question is, so because of the father and mother, we're going to cancel the whole Mishmara. Woe to the Rasha, woe to his Shochan, and the flip side, what's good for the tzaddik is good for his neighbor. Say to the tzaddik that he is good, that the fruit of their deeds. So therefore we see from that tov tzaddik tov l'shcheinei. A short thing, and I'll try to keep it like under a minute or so. I think everybody here is familiar with the Lukus Sikha, the Rebbe's Hadran from Tavshin Lamed Hey. One thing I don't think it talks about really over there is why Davka this is in Meseches Sukkah of all Mesechtes. So I think one thing might be near the end of the Masechta we talk about the Shivim Purim corresponding to the Shivim Umos, where there's an idea that you have the ultimate, the last time the Shivim Umos try anything is Mochames Gog Magog. There are actually psukim that describe, you have one of them is in that side, and that has a shaykhus to Sukkos. We read about Mochames Gog Magog on Sukkos in the Haftarahs. And in one of those Haftarahs and a few other psukim in Sefer Zechariah that talk about it, it mentions how there are actually going to be Jews, people from Yehuda, that are going to be forced to fight alongside the Goyim against Yerushalayim and against the Jews of Yerushalayim. And nevertheless, the pasuk is saying that still those Jews ultimately are going to be safe, and when all the disasters that happen to the various goyim, to the various armies of Gog and Magog, they're going to be safe, and they are going to be kekir eish be'etzim, like a fire that burns through firewood. We actually mentioned that line in the Hoshainus and Hoshainat Abel, man alufet told us alufet Yehuda tosim kekir eish. So you really have the same kind of thing as Miriam Bas Bilga, Jews who are so far removed from Yiddishkeit that they actually go, okay, we're saying Ba'onis, but still, that they actually go and join the Goyish forces of Mohammed's Gog and Magog, their last attempt to overpower Yiddishkeit, and nevertheless we're still saying that there's still Alufa Yehuda, and they still are the Kiyer Eish, and they're still the ones who are going to be rescued together with the rest of the Jewish people. Very much B'shaychos to Miriam Bas Bilga, where also for 2,000 odd years she sat over there in the Gemara, and everybody is cursing her out until the Rebbe comes along and explains the Mila of her. Hadron lach Meseches Sukkah v'Hadron Chalon, Daifen lach Meseches Sukkah v'Daifen Chalon, Lenis Nishim nach Meseches Sukkah, Leis Nishim Shiminon leBa'amod Den leBa'amod Asi. Hadron lach Meseches Sukkah v'Hadron Chalon, Daifen lach Meseches Sukkah v'Daifen Chalon, Lenis Nishim nach Meseches Sukkah v'Leis Nishim Shiminon leBa'amod Den leBa'amod Asi. Hadron lach Meseches Sukkah v'Hadron Chalon, Daifen lach Meseches Sukkah v'Daifen Chalon, Lenis Nishim nach Meseches Sukkah v'Leis Nishim Shiminon leBa'amod Den leBa'amod Asi. Yuratzum v'Fanach Adonai Eloheinu v'Lavsen Shtei Teras Chom Netzenu B'Olam Hazeh Siman U'Olam Haba. Chanenu v'Papa Rama v'Papa Nachman v'Papa Achoy v'Papa Abumari v'Papa Rafma v'Papa Rocher v'Papa Such v'Papa Oder v'Papa Dora v'Papa. V'Harav Adonai Eloheinu V'Stiv V'Seras Chom B'Finu v'Kalam Chabes Yisrael v'Niyah Nachman v'Tzetzenu v'Tzetzei Kalam Chabes Yisrael V'Lonu Yodei Shmecha V'Lonu Yodei Secha L'Shma Me'Rei Beit HaChmeni Mitztachel Ki Lo Elmei Li Yehi Li B'Yisam V'Kech L'Man Lo Evesh Lo Elam Lo Yishkach V'Kedecha Ki Bam Chiyisani Baruch Atah Adonai Lamden V'Kecha Omen 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 Salaboid Moed Manachman V'Nach Adonai Eloheinu V'Lavsen Sham Chavkenim Yesh V'Yisam Midrash V'Sam Chavkenim Yesh V'Kronis Shana mashkim mehem mashkim, ona mashkim the debe say mashkim the grow metalem, ona amelem behem amelem, ona amelem kabem schar behem amelem behem kabem schar, ona rotzem behem rotzem, ona rotzem chayim above behem rotzem the veshachas, nema vatalem to dem veshachas, anche dem nim leach say mem anief nach Yuratzum Fanah Adonai Eloheinu Kashem Shazatanu will sign Meseches Sukkah Ken Chazrin will Hask Meseches as far Machayim will sign Blum and Lam Lishma Velasquez will time as called Debe Samat Zachab Abba will Schos Kalatunaim Amarim Samat Chacham Yamad Lano was our Enush Le Samat Ratun Pinu and Biz our Enu Bizarre our Enu Ad Olam. This is Kaim Bi Bonu Bi Salach Tan Chausach Bashach Bachatush Malacha Bakitzoy Hisi Tzacha Kibi Yibri Mecha Besip Choshnas Chaim Erich Yamin Biminach Bismillah Osher Bchabed Adonai Islamait and Adonai Berch Sama Vashalem. Iskada biskada shmehir abba. We are on the Virach of the Yamah Chos Gats for Kana Vikar Meshich. The Hayachin Memechan Hydro Basis of Agolo with Makar Bimain. Yesh Meher Abba Mavarach, Mayos, but if Shabak is very some business say, we said of Salavis Alosh Mehikutrabriku, Levan Kabahos of Shasa to Kasan Hasnam and Mamavim Ramin. I saw Baraban Matamadan, Bakal Tamadasan, Bakam on Dusky Marais, the Vasa, Kolasavasa, Yahelahan Shlamarabachin of His Brahmin, and then we for Kanaka Mabuni Shmibim Ramin, Yesh Lamarabin, Time Kevin Mako Savim Ramin. I was showing who has shown Amen. This should also be the Ilu Nishmas, my father, whose yard site is tonight, Chuvia Ben Chaim.
Maskifim Siyum Laschol, Mazel Tov, Alexander, Mazel Tov to all the Messiahim. Maskifim Siyum Laschol, we're going to be Mechabed Beshanowitz, a Magid Shir in Shane Shul, to begin with Sechta Beya. I just want to give a sneak preview of what's ahead of us. We're going to have, right after the Haskalah, we're going to have the keynote of this evening, Chayis and Limud HaTorah, an overview by Rabbi Aster, the Magid Shir in Igud Avrechim, and then taking a right into Praktish Maisa B'Poyel, Rabbi Ram Rotban is going to give us the smorgasbord of shiurim that exists and are available to take this inspiration and move it into the world of Maisa. Rabbi Shanowitz, Shane Schultz.
Where is the this is right after you stop.
No.
Huh? No, see right now. Let's go down. Okay, they're on his location. So he brings it, we finished Meseches Sukkah, and the Rebbe speaks about the Indian Shchenas, the Indian of neighbors. How deep does how much of an effect does one have on his neighbor? Teibla Tzadik, he said, Teibla Shchenoi, and Rashi brings down the Nida Teiva Meruba Madach by Oila Rosh, Oila Shchena, how much more so when it comes to Oila Tzadik, Oila Shchena. But the Pasik, Rashi omits the Pasik, but the Pasik shows us a much stronger connection. I'm just telling you, the Rebbe is machalik between the Rashi and the Rambam. But Bekitzer, according to the Rambam, it seems like the Pasik would follow the sheet of the Rambam, because it starts off that Imle Tzaddik Yitoiv, it starts off the Lashon Yachid, and then he finishes off Ma'aleihem Yechelu, to show us that when it's Toiv La Tzaddik, he has such an effect that they don't eat from his deeds, Ma'aleihem, from their own deeds, that he has an effect over the people around him. Magala Amuki says that the Rosh Tevis of Elul is Oy La Rasha, Oy La Shechina. So this is a auspicious time that Oy, the Rebbe says, Oy is a Rasha from Akrechts. So if a Rasha gives a Oy, I could have become better. How much I have Charata, Oy, what did I do? That could have a big effect, La Shechina, to the others to do tshuva. This is of Chedesh Elul. We'll start off with the Masechta Beya. Beya is known to be the Masechta of Yom Tiv. Speaks about in what's muta on Yom Tiv, what's asa. Of course, we know things that are preparation for food that you're allowed to do. It speaks about muksa. Muksa, it speaks about it at the beginning of the Masechta and also at the end of the Masechta. We'll get to it. Beya Shanol be Yom Tiv. It speaks about a Beya that was born on Yom Tiv. Here are three of the cases where Beis Hillel is more machmer. Beis Shammai says you could eat it, and Beis Hillel says you cannot. But by the way, as a if I'm not mistaken, Beya, the reason why it says Beitza and not Beya is a whole story in Sanhedrin where they made a mistake, and they thought that when they were kneading the dough with mushroom water, that wouldn't Beya is mushroom water to tell us. That's not machshir lekabel tuma. So I don't remember who it was. If I'm not mistaken, it was Rebbe. Rebbe says no. That beya there meant an egg. The liquid of an egg is not machshir lekabel tuma. So he changed it to the lashon beitza. Anyway, beya shenol b'yom. Beis Shammai says teichel beis Hillel eimer leiseichel. Then it says Beis Shammai oimim se'ir. Se'ir is much stronger. Yeast. So that's even by a smaller share, the share of a kezayis. That's already the Isur. The Chametz, which is not as strong, could be even a bigger share because Sevis, like a date. Beis Hillel is machna. He says, even by Chametz, it's the small share of a Kazayas. One who slaughters a Chai Ba'if, the Yom Tiv. Beis Shammai Yomim Yachbei Bedeka. He should take with a spade some earth, v'yichazer, and cover it in the inyan of kisadam, that you have to be mechasa the blood of the earth after the shechita. Beis Hillel lo yishchait. Beis Hillel says you should not shecht elam kein hayolay afam luchan mebeid yoyim, unless he had earth already prepared from before Yom Tov. Moedim, but they both agree. Shim shachat, if he already had shechted, even according to Beis Hillel, sheyach bedeker v'yichasa, that he should use the spade with the. It's talking about the Gemara will say that the decker was already stuck in the ground with the off on it, and he can cover it. The ash of the oven is considered as prepared, and the Gemara will explain what that means as well. But b'peil mamish, we're talking about the eating of muktzah, something that was not prepared from before Yom Tov cannot be used. The afar has to be prepared from before Yom Tov. The end of the Masechta talks about behemoths, that there's midbarius behemoths, and there's a bias behemoths, domestic animals. There's a machlokes if a domestic animal is considered as prepared for Yom Tov. So what is considered a domestic animal? Those that come back every night, those are domestic animals, according to the Chachamim. The midbarius, those that stay and sleep in the pasture, and they come when it's in the rainy seasons. The Chachamim don't consider that as prepared. It's midbarius, but according to Rabbi, even midbarius are considered as domestic animals. But what's the union of behema? Adam ki Yaakov mekem, it means the behema which is within us. So one has to be makriv, and what's the union of makriv? To elevate the animal, to elevate oneself. The behema, the nefesh habam is to be makriv the behema, and it doesn't have to be dafka behema that's domestic by you, but even a midbarius, even that's so far-fetched. Like we have the story with Milga, who's so far away from Yiddishkeit, and nevertheless, the Rebbe spoke about a Fabrengen, why about Milga was try to bring out the righteousness from her, that she cared for the Yidden. She kicked the Mizbeach. She couldn't understand how that the Mizbeach is consuming money, but in the time of need, the Eibishter is not there to help the Yidden. And the Rebbe got so many letters back complaining why from the Welt. What are you trying to justify Milga? Who is she? She was a Rishas, and they were complaining to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe spoke about it was like a cryptic Fabringen. The Rebbe spoke about the Alter Rebbe took out the book, and this was a whole story with the Rebbe says it was to be Mila, those that killed Zcharia, that they did it b'msiris nefesh, because they didn't want he should say Nevi'us about the Churban, because they knew if a tzaddik says it, it's Geizer Mekayim. So they said, well, kill him before he says Nevi'us, so that the whole inning of Golus will not happen. They went on b'msiris nefesh. So, but somebody had to elevate the neshamis. They killed a tzaddik, they killed Zcharia. So this is the story that they bring out with the Alter Rebbe. So the Rebbe was sort of hinting that he was elevating the neshama of Milga. Anyway, we should be zeicha to Geula Amitzah Shlema. This Rosh Hashanah is also a good gebencht year. Taksiv Sima Teva. Tala brachis. Amen.
Shekayach. I'm sure very, very geschmack to listen to, and you could join. You're welcome to join this year. What day is it by channel? What day is it? I mean, every day, but what time?
I do
Mincha Ma'ariv. Okay. If you enjoyed this year, you can enjoy every night between Mincha and Ma'ariv and Shein Shul. Yeshakayach, Rab, awesome.
You could mention that Shvei told me by the first Siyum that every daf we should try to handle to the Chassidische Maisa.
Okay.
And by if the Siyum, there should be a Fabrengen. So I was in Shein Shul, we did it today. We finished the 8.
Okay. There's a Chassidische Maisa every day, every daf.
I try. Salman
tries. It's pretty straightforward, everybody say. Every night, right at say when you finish the daf, come again, shlap the Chassidische Maisa. Yeshakayach, Rav Shanowitz. Just to add, to give Rebach Tasima, I'm just gonna add a piece of information, maybe useful for those that are first time learning Masechta Beya. That when it says Sa'or bekazayis and Stam Chometz bekakoseves, so Sa'or is generally translated as yeast, or the thing that's machmitz. So you're trying to figure out how people eat yeast. So just to fill in a piece of technical information, that once upon a time, the way they made bread rise, they would take dough and let it go sour, but extremely, extremely sour, and then they would take pieces from that sa'or. That's what's called sa'or. It became so chamut, so sour, that it was the source of sourness, which means whenever they wanted to be machmetz a nuisa, they would take a piece from that piece of dough. So when it, I guess like sour, but it was sourdough bread is edible. That didn't seem so edible, but it was machmitz other isais, and that's what the Mishnah is referring to when it says sa'or, because it's much more chametz. According to that day, it has a smaller shear. Now we'll enjoy and have the geshmak of getting the koyach, moving forward into a new tkuf of limud Torah, and we're in the time that now's the time to be mekabel achlatis, and the inspiration netman from Chassidus for bringing. It's my cover to introduce Rabbi Fishel Aster, been renowned Maggid Shir Mashpia.
L'chaim, everybody. L'chaim. L'chol hareish, the hashgacha pratis of having a siyum on Masechta Sukkah within the Shloshim Yom Shekaydem L'chag of the Yontav of Sukkos. So Mastama, those that learned the Masechta could go and choose your Dalet Minim and know exactly what you're looking for. Which part? Sometimes I come into the store, I see the way people look at the esrog. They're looking at it from this way, that way. If you learn the Gemara, the Shlisha Elyain is the main part that matters, that the esrog should be clean. And all the other halachas that you learned. Maybe now after learning Meseches Sukkah, you might have an idea what the Baal Shem Tov Sukkah looked like. Baal Shem Tov had a Sukkah that was kam kosher. So if you learn the Gemara, and you have all the different halacha l'moshe misinais, you could have a Sukkah with Deif and Akuma, and with Lavud, and with some Avir in the Sukkah if it's less than 3 Tvachim, Pasal Chach if it's less than 4 Tvachim, 2 walls with another Tefach, or maybe Yatzuras HaPesach. B'chulu, you can have a Sukkah, you walk in it, you won't even think you're sitting in a Sukkah. Pashkacha Pratis, as we were sitting here, everyone's getting these messages that there's a flood taking place. So I was thinking to myself, one of the things it says about the Sukkah is that a Sukkah is a machsa mizera mumimata. Sukkah shields you, it protects you from rain and from a wind. That's one of the things that it says about Sukkah. Lagabi the mitzvah of Sukkah, the main thing that Sukkah is tzeil, for the shade. But the Rebbe once said an interesting thing, that the Torah shows the name of the mitzvah Sukkah because the word Sukkah means a lot of different things. Sukkah protects you from the sun, from the heat. It also protects you from the zerem and matar, from the flood, water, from wind. Sukkah also means to see. One of the names of Sarah was Yiska. Hakol Seichim B'Yafya. Sukkah also means to listen, to hear. Haske Sushma Yisrael. The mitzvah of Sukkah, as we know, is a mitzvah klalis that has everything in it, and it's the only mitzvah ki yedua that when you fulfill it, you enter inside the Sukkah completely, miroshai v'ad ragloi, including also with your boots, as the famous word goes. Kopanim, so those that were zeiche to be Messiah, Meseches Sukkah, and all those that are mishtatef and all shiurei Torah, befrat for Chassidim, when we have so many responsibilities. We have learn Chumash, Tilim, Tanya, and Rambam, and then B'Neisef L'zeh, you Meisef another shir, and that's not another shir, a shir kavua, midei yom b'yomai, the consistency of learning a blat Gemara every day. For those that learn a blat Gemara every day, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's not so pashut. It's a commitment in time, to every single day, not to miss a day. Maybe she should give you vayta kayach to be able to continue. One of the things that we learned in Meseches Sukkah is whatever a person does in his life, there's always going to be challenges. It's always going to be hard. Especially, if you ever notice, when you make a achlata tova to get something done, and you think in advance, could I do this, could I not? And it seems to be something feasible. Right after you'll make the achlata, all of a sudden, all kinds of challenges will come up. You can't make it, you can't come, it's not going to happen, it's too hard, it's too late, you're falling asleep by the shir, it doesn't seem like you're understanding, it's not working. All the terutzim all of a sudden come up. Some may even be real terutzim. But that's the reality of life. That there's a nefesh lekis, there's a nefesh bahamis, and there's the Yetzer Hara. The whole sugya of Yetzer Hara, interestingly, is in Meseches Sukkah. And the Gemara says, and the Eibush is there. He helps us. Elamai, you have to abyssal, you have to a little bit physically pesach chudish or machat, you have to do something from below. So if you make achlat teva to be mishtatef in a shir kavua, and you start one day, do it a day at a time, and then a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, you continue going, it becomes part of your blood, part of your daily schedule. There's very andere mensch. I guarantee it to you. You'll become a different person. Ask those that are doing it, that have a shir kavua every day, day in, day out, Shabbos, Yontif, weekday, and Kippur, Tisha B'Av, Chanukah, Purim. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. Ubefrat, a greisi yashakayach for Rabbi Avraham Rappam that started this year, and one thing brought to the other. The shir that I give, he began, and many other shiurim. Rabbi Yezevich is sitting here, the Shir Rambam. It wasn't the first shir in the community. Rabbi Lustig has been giving a shir way before. And Rabbi Oppenheimer as well. And Rabbi Shanowitz, Baruch Hashem. I think there's others. They're not all here, all the Maggid Yeshurim. But each shir, even if it's not all together at the same location, but it's mechazik one another, and the Eibusher should give you continued kayach with more shiurim and with more pulis, with more fabrengens in the community, and the kayach of Torah will take us out of Golos, no question about it. So it was mentioned before that there's a siyum from the Rebbe, from Vav Tishrei, Tafshil Amid Hey, about Miriam Bas Bilga. And everybody's talking about the siyum, and everybody's telling you that it's famous. Everyone knows the siyum. Does everybody know it? It's famous. Everyone knows it. We don't have to tell you about what the Rebbe said because it's famous. But I really think it's worth mentioning, at least Bekitzer, on a kudah of what the Rebbe spoke in the siyum. When I heard the siyum many years ago, and I heard it now again, and every time I hear the siyum, it shakes you up. And befrat the way the Rebbe said it, the Rebbe was crying because the Rebbe said the siyum. And I was thinking of the Ayem Yom. There's a famous Ayem Yom regarding Limud Torah, where the Rebbe brings there the vart that there's the Limud Torah that we learn in this world, and there's the Limud Torah in Gan Eden. And b'shas a person learns Torah in this world, and you think about the same words of Torah that you learn here, that in Gan Eden, they learn this Torah on a completely different level. So it's like a fire. It puts in a little fire in your heart in the Torah that you learn. And there in Yom Yom, it brings the pshat of Aleim Torah leprakim, the way it's learned in this world, and Aleim Torah leprakim, the way it's learned in Gan Eden. When I heard this siyum, I was thinking to myself, oh, this is a taste of a piece of Gemara that you could learn in Olam Haza, and you could see the Gemara with the eyes of Olam Haza. And then you hear the way the Rebbe learns the Gemara, and what the Rebbe takes out of the Gemara. It's a Gemara from Gan Eden. It's a different Gemara altogether. You have the story here of Miriam Bas Bilga that fell to a level that you can't be lower than that. Himira Dasa, she converted, and then she went and got married to a Sradiat, to a Sar, to a minister that was by the Yevonim. And then when the Yevonim came into the Beis HaMikdash, she came along with them, and she kicked them as Be'ach, and she said, Lucas, you're like a wolf. You're eating up all the money of the Yidden, and you're not even there to help the Yidden in the time of need. And because of this, she was punished, her entire Nishma was punished. That's the Teichen of the Gemara. Came the Rebbe and said, and I will go over this just bekitzer, but in the Kudah, the Rebbe made 2 points over here where you see the positive inyan of what the Gemara is really saying. The first point that Rebbe said, what does the Gemara say? Why was she punished? She was punished, her Mishma was punished because of her kicking the Mizbeach. So the Rebbe says, think about this. Here's a person that converted and married a guy. And then she came and she kicked the Mizbeach. What's worse? The fact that she kicked the Mizbeach, or the fact that she converted and married a guy? Nevertheless, what does the Gemara say? What is she being punished for? For the fact that she kicked the Mizbeach. How's that Teufus Mokim? How does that matter? That's not the main thing here. He miro dosa, and she went and got married to a Sradiat. So the Rebbe brings the Pirush HaMishnayis. Sorry, it's not the Pirush HaMishnayis. It's the Rambam in Nigeris. Nigeris Taimon, where the Rambam says that Yeravam ben Avot, which was Chota v'Hechtius Arabim, he sinned himself and brought many Yidden to serve Avodah Zarah. Nevertheless, he's going to be punished. He's going to be punished for not being Mekayim all mitzvahs, including the smallest thing like Erev Tafshilin, which is, by the way, something we're going to learn about in Masechta Be'ah in the beginning of the second Perek. Praktik l'Shaila, here you have a person that completely disconnected himself from the Eibishter, serves Avodah Zarah, Chot v'Hechtius Arabim. What is he being punished for? For not making the Erev Tafshilin. What kind of an erech does that have? He's cut off legamri. He's completely cut off. The Erev Tafshilin is what matters. So the Rebbe was screaming by the Fabrengen, Wo abgeschnitten? Was abgeschnitten? A Yid gets cut off. Even a person like Yiravam ben Avat, Afal Pishachota, Yisrael, who is a Yid,
And that's the reason why his aid of Tavshilim matters. So the Rebbe said, this is the makkah for the Rambam is right here, this story of Miriam Bas Bilga, a Yiddish girl that fell so low, and nevertheless, her Mishmer is being punished for the fact that she kicked the Mizbeach, that she was disrespectful to the Mizbeach. The other Nakuda that Rebbe said, which Rabbi Shanowitz mentioned before, that here you have a Yiddish girl, that even when B'Shas she fell so low, and she was completely disconnected, nevertheless, when she kicks the Mizbeach, what is she saying? Vu is the Eivishter. Why is he not helping the Yidden? Even at such a time, she's demanding and she understands that the Eivishter is the one that's supposed to be helping the Yidden, and she's demanding, who is the Eivishter? So that shows you what the hearts of a Yid is. That even when a Yid falls so low, nevertheless, she had the Yiddish hearts to scream and demand, Ad Masai, who's the Eivishter? No, so think to yourself, you learn such a piece of Gemara, and then you hear the Rebbe teaches, Bergeven Miriam as Bilga, that in this Gemara you see what a Yid really is. Here you see the power of the Neshama of a Yid. That's a mamish, that's a Gemara from Gan Eden. It's a different Gemara. So I was thinking the connection to the Meseches Bechlal, Miriam Bas Bilga, how is this connected to the Teichen of the Meseches Bechlal? So one of the things that it says when you get to Sukkah, which is in the Meseches, is Ru'uyin Kol Yisrael Leishav B'Sukkah Achas, that all Yidden can sit in the very same Sukkah. So the simple pshat of this Gemara is, if you learn the Gemara and you learn the Rashi, that you have one Sukkah, and it says Kol Ezrach B'Yisrael Yeshiv B'Sukkahs. How is it possible that all Yidden are going to sit in the same Sukkah? It's not physically possible. So it's only possible B'Zeh Chazeh. That's a simple pshat in the Gemara. And how? If the Sukkah is never going to be large enough, the entire Klal Yisrael could own a Shava Pruta in the Sukkah. Even if it's impossible to own a Shava Pruta for everybody. That you yotze with the Sukkah She'ula. B'Zeh Chazeh, everyone's using the Sukkah, and you're borrowing the Sukkah from the other Yid. That's the pshat in the Gemara. Chassidus teaches, what does Ru'uyin Kol Yisrael Leishav B'Sukkah Achas mean? The greatest of the greatest Yidden, Moshe Rabbeinu, and the Poshet Shebepshutim, belong to be in the very same Sukkah. Kol Yisrael are B'Sukkah Achas. The Richuka Eref, the distance that there is from Moshe Rabbeinu to a Poshet Yid is so far. What kind of a connection is there between Moshe Rabbeinu and a Poshet Yid? Elamai, so we know what Chassidus teaches us. If you're speaking about one madrege, another madrege, it's a heches, a nidriker, he knows more Torah, he knows less Torah. Those madreges, there's a huge nafkin minute. If you're talking about the very essence of who the Yid is, all Yidden belong equally in the very same Sukkah. That's the Teichen of the Meseches, the mitzvah of Sukkah. And the same thing also is when you get to the mitzvah of Dalet Minim. The whole Teichen, as we know the Medrash, when you get to Dalet Minim, is bringing together the various different types of Yidden in the Esrig, Yesh Beitam, Yesh Bereach, to the other extreme, which is the Arava, which has absolutely no taste, no smell, and it's the Ish Poshet, the Poshet Shebepshutim. And the Rebbe actually points out that from the older Dalet Minim, which is the one that's taken out, and there's a separate mitzvah, there's a separate minig or mitzvah, when you get to that min, out of the Dalet Minim, the Arava. Dafke da Arava. The Arava stands out. In the time of the Beis HaMikdash, it was Dafke da Arava that every day they brought it into the Mizbeach, a massive, tall Arava, and according to some opinions, they would actually go around with the Arava. Some machlokes, but according to some opinions, they would go around with the Arava. The Arava, Dafke da Arava. Why? Because the Arava is the Ish Poshet, the Poshet Yid that's connected to the very essence of the Eibishter. So that's why the Masechta finishes with Miriam Bas Bilga. That's really captures the whole Nekuda of what the Masechta is about. So I'm going to finish off with another verse from the Rebbe that I heard also many years ago, but I saw it now again. This was also in a Fabrengen right before Sukkot, in Tavshin Lamed Gimel. So as it's known, in Tavshin Lamed Aleph, by the Chamishasa B'Shvat Fabrengen, the Rebbe began koching in Einem in the Welt mit Torah. And this went on for a Meshech Zman, with koching in Limud Torah, even through Tavshin Lamed Beis, and then in the beginning of Tavshin Lamed Gimel as well, by the Fabrengen, So the Rebbe spoke about the cheshivas of limud Torah, and the Rebbe connected it to the Zman, to the Sukkah. The Rebbe said as follows: if you look in Hilchas Sukkah, it's in the Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, in the Siman Tov Reish Lamed Tes, in the Seif Daled, and there's a halacha about limud Torah and the Sukkah. If you're learning Torah on Sukkahs, should you learn Torah in the Sukkah or not? So the Alter Rebbe there says, all 7 days of Sukkahs, you should learn in the Sukkah. So the Alter Rebbe says that really you should learn in the Sukkah, like everything else during Sukkahs, that a person lives all the day in the Sukkah as much as possible. But if you're going to learn better, you want to have more ear in another place to learn better, you can learn out of the Sukkah. That's the halacha. Yeah, Mizbar Yunal Girsa, right. So, by the Fabrengen, the Rebbe said, the emes Yid that learns Torah should be learning Torah, and the avir of the Welt around him shouldn't matter to him. He's learning, and his mind and his focus is what he's learning, and he's disconnected to the atmosphere around him. He has Reichav Avir, does not have Reichav Avir. He's being zeichet to learn the Eivish's Torah. Says in the Geya, Reichav Avir, nice here, not nice there. He's learning the Eivish's Torah. Elamai, who are we talking about over here? We're talking about someone that the Welt von dem Tianort. It matters to him. His Nefesh Abamas tells him, I'm not comfortable sitting here in the Sukkah, and therefore I want to go learn inside. So the halacha is that you go and you learn the Torah inside. Mikan Raya, the milah of how powerful limud Torah is. And even this individual that's learning Torah b'ofen kazeh, that it's not necessarily kedabaya l'meheva. He's not learning Torah really on the darga that he should be. So you would think, no, let him break himself a little bit. The mitzvah of Sukkah is going to leave alone the mitzvah of Sukkah for his reichav ha'avir that he wants. Afal pikein, the limud Torah b'yid is so chashuv. Even if you're learning Torah b'ofen kazeh that you want to be comfortable, nevertheless, the halacha is if you go out of the Sukkah, just to give the Yid the opportunity to learn Torah with a reichav ha'avir and daita yot, daita miyushev salom. So the Rebbe said, here you see how important it is for a Yid that he makes a shir in learning Torah. Even to leave alone the mitzvah of Sukkah, but nevertheless, it's going to be meisif in his reichav ha'avir. Agam, it's not the Eibush, he's not magish the Eibush's Torah, he's magish himself. He wants the reichav ha'avir when he learns the Torah, to be able to learn. If that's where he's holding now, give him his reichav ha'avir and I get the rest of the Sukkah. That's what the Rebbe said by the Fabrengen. Eibush soll helfen, aber soll auch haben Maksive Vachsime Teva, Ashana Teva Mesukkah, Ashnas Gula Yeshua, and from this Siyum we should come to other Siyumim. And the Hikir is, Amazon Shemesayim Zayin, the Golos, and take it from Yad Mamish, the Rebbe should come down and take us out of Golos. Atzenu Akdesha, Yerushalayim Yira Kodesh, and being Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, take it from Yad Mamish.
Shakoyach Rabbi Aster. Speaking of the floods and the Sukkahs, it's getting closer to us. There's a chef of mine over here. And wow. Okay, good. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Oh yeah, okay. Ebazay, that's the meaning. Ebazay is that's the meaning. Right. Okay, a short thought I had while Rabbi Aster was speaking, and so powerfully brought many points that were discussed in Masechta Sukkah, and brings it to Chassid's mind when he thinks about the Baal Shem Tov Sukkah. What was the prat? And I think it's going to start Maisip's a whole as a Piska Drachas Ben Shmaya, the Sukkah of Israel. So a thought came to mind. The Chavse Richtig, the aggressor Yidden, they'll tell me if we find ourselves in the days we're learning now, completing Masechta Sukkah, and you learn in Gemara Sukkah you learn the Psalm of the Daled Minim. You learn the Psalm of the Daled Minim, and like Rabbi Aster mentioned, as we know, that the Shlisha Elyon is the most relevant. The Alter Rebbe is Magda from, in the Esrig, where it's Maschil Shapeah till the top. In the Lulav, the Shlish Elyon, and it's where the Shidra ends, etc., etc. And Azayach by all of them, by the Aravis and by the Adasim, you have to have that it's so Negea that even by the Adasim, if there's the three top ones are Frisha, it's Machsher, even the rest are Yevation, etc., etc. A thought I have is that each one of us that finds ourselves here and finds ourselves by Shiurim of whether it's Gemara daily, short Gemara, the Friedrich Rebbe Zok, the Parachosit past, learning Gemara Yedetog, and obviously Rambam and Chitas. We are ashtikal the Shlisha Elyon. Shlisha Elyon means that this is Pnei Adur. What sets the standard for everybody is Divas Mezet, and it's not just about feeling great about yourself. It gives the whole mean the gather of a hodder. If those that are the Shlisha Elyon, those that are Pnei Adur, those that they're there, they were given the schus to inspire others, to be a dogma for others, and they make sure that they're a hodder. The whole min is called a hodder. When it says L'kachtam l'chabri eitz hodder, obviously because that's the ayin teifus by Rishayna, so Mishamatzchel Shabbeah, from where it starts tilting diagonally upward, that's where it's the most chomer. Sai by Chazazis and Sai by Nekudis, etc., etc. But once it's Hadar, the whole Pri is Hadar. And it's a schus that we have to L'roimim Beis Elokeinu, to take a shchuna and make it more and more Ir B'Ein B'Yisrael by kaching sich and learning and Bereish Gilei. And this is all a small introduction to the next speaker, Rabbi Rotban, which even as Rabbi Aster said, there's many shiurim that are going on for a long time, but to take the shiurim that exist and to spread it and make it nachal sakal, not only bringing it through various various methods and various platforms, etc., but Pashit making it, Amol was stutzach in a little shtipel in a shtetl nobody knows. Zwischen Zeh and the Eibishter. And to make it zwischen Zeh and everybody takes on and realizes that this is where we're heading, that this is our Shenkite. The Shlisha Elyon is the Shenkite of all of ours. That is Niskav L'Schusay Reb Avram Rotban. It's a cover to invite over here Yid as Mekim Ola Shel Torah in a tremendous, tremendous way in our Shchuna Reb Avram Rotban.
Chaim. So the true covered is for the Magdeshurim who give a daily share, are devoted to prepare a share, to give a share, whether it's raining, whether it's hot, whether in the country, in the camp. Actually, Rabbi Aster, even though he went up to camp, he was teaching in camp, he continued the share, and actually we had the beautiful scenery in the background when it was on the video. It was on YouTube, but there was the beautiful scenery, so you could feel you're learning the Gemara and you're also on vacation at the same time. So what else can you ask for? So they truly deserve the true honor, the true kavod and skavod of those who attend the share on a day-to-day basis as well, because they allow it and make it that it can happen. By the way, I'm thinking tonight there was so many distractions. It's really first of all, the rain, the tornado. We probably should have a tornado out there. We're getting alerts after alerts, one after another. Every 2 minutes, there's another alert. In Afghanistan, I don't think they're getting so many alerts with everything that's going on there. And here with the rain, we're getting alert after alert. So, and it's disturbing. Pashut, everyone, we're trying to listen to the Torah. We see how important this evening is, and a lot of credit for those who came out here. I didn't expect such a nice crowd with this weather, and it's really it shows how much it's meaningful. Limud Torah, and of course we have it online live as well. So we have those who are joining online. And First of all, it says that Teda is Beshula Lemaim. So maybe this is the forget. Efshis HaBracha, as the Baal Shem Tov sagt, as Mezeit Basset, das is a Simen Bracha. So Gishmi Bracha, yeah, it's all the brachas from all the Teda that's been going on. Look, Abaye, as great as he was, it says Pesele that he wanted to get the reward. Why? Because he made a Siyum Letzuba Mirabanan for a Talmid Chacham that finished a Masechta. Over there's mashma for one prayer. It wasn't a group, but mashma azay mashma that Tzuba Mirabanan, a Talmid who finished a Masechta. He stopped everything and he made a Siyum for that Talmid. How much more so over here that we have not just a Talmid, we have Chashuvim Melamdim and Magid Shurim, and not of one place, not two places, but we have 7 shuls over here. Actually, there may be more. I don't know. Maybe there's some of them are hidden somewhere and we don't know about it. Please let us know. We'll promote them as well, Be'ez Hashem. Besides that, there's many chaburas, by the way, and chavrusas also, who learn. And besides that, it's online as well. So if you cannot join live, if there's such a day like today, or you don't live here, you're online. I know that I've heard actually feedback from people in Mexico while listening to the shir. I've heard feedback from people, and there was someone was in a funny country. I don't remember the country. It was like Taiwan or something. And the shliach happened to be there, and he says, "I'm listening. I want you to know, I'm bringing Dusha and Teda in this place. I don't know if there was ever a Yid in this area where I am, and I'm listening to a Shir Teda over here that's available online." So basically, there's no excuse. If you want Teda, it's out there. You could come live. Of course, there's nothing like coming to a Shir Teda and coming live. Imagine a daf, you learn a daf a day. Within 30 days, you learn 30 dafim. That's a kinyan. It's amazing. And here we finish a Masechta. It's amazing kinyan. And so some people, maybe Gemara, they feel it's a little too fast for them. By the way, Baruch Hashem, these shurim, Rabbi Yasser shir, for example, is about a half hour, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And I'll tell you a little secret. Some people listen on double speed. I don't know how they do it because I feel it's already double speed. Rabbi Yasser is already on double speed. So double speed on that's like 4 times speed. But some people, I guess, their brain is like capable of doing it, maybe after a few l'chaim. So they listen on double speed. So a guy tells me within 15 minutes, I finished the daf. Not only that, many times he throws in halacha, lamaisa, and many times he throws in something from the Rebbe as well, or Divich Chassidus. So I get halacha, Chassidus, and a daf within 15, 20 minutes. Amazing. And there's, again, there's a WhatsApp group. If you go to egamtera.org now, if Gemara is not your thing, so there's many other shurim. There's shurim, and we have Rabbi Mendel Yuzevich over here, who went through the entire Rambam 3 prakim a day in, day out. And it's all on podcast. It's available out there. It's actually, there's a Rambam app that came out, a beautiful Rambam app, which you can listen to many, many different shiurim. There's Rabbi Rappaport who gives 1 page Rambam. We actually started a new Rambam shir with Rabbi Michal Zayins. He gives a beautiful shir between Mincha Maidev and Parish Tibor. Someone told me he doesn't understand why there should not be at least 20 people by this shir. Literally. I mean, he went through Kiddush HaChaydish, and some people told me, I'm not a maven, Bas Berich HaMaven. We try, they say the shoemaker goes without shoes. So the one who arranges shiurim, sometimes busy arranging shiurim, loved after he goes too much of shiurim. I was thinking, why does the shoemaker go without shoes? I don't know, but either he's too busy, but he feels he's always looking at the other person's shoe, and he sees, oh, his shoes are nice, and his shoes, I'm fixing up his shoes. You think everything's good, so you don't realize about yourself. But we're trying to arrange, so Baruch Hashem, there's many different types of shurim. There's Rambam shurim. There's Chumash. Rabbi Yuzevich actually does also a daily Chumash shir. That is, by the way, you could get your wife on board as well. It's not only for men. The ladies who do chitas on a daily basis, they can listen to the Chumash shir. There's also a Shah B'Tochen, which the Rebbe very much encouraged to learn Chayvus Avavis, Sha'abitachen, that's also available. So we see all the distractions that were tonight, the great rain, the alerts every 2 minutes. It's on. I even asked someone, I said, what is this? Why are they giving that? Usually they give you an alert, you press OK, they leave you alone for 2 hours. Here, 2 minutes later, again and again. And actually, right as we started, we used this mic. There was 2 months, Baruch Hashem, of Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday right here. There was shiurim, summer shiurim, different speakers. The mic worked perfectly. No problem. Tonight, as we started, it does not work. I had to send out my son to go get batteries. The batteries went out. Boom, tonight. It didn't happen at the end, it happened at the beginning. So we see all this, we see how great of an evening it is, and especially that we're doing it l'schus also, and Lilu Nishmas, the Rebbe's brother, which was established, from what I understood and from what I read, it was established as Chafei Elo because he was killed by the Nazis. It was established today that the Rebbe used to say Kaddish. So it's also a great schus, and as well today is Yom Shenivra Elam, Yibris Elam, right? Chafei Elo, which it says Bereshis, it says B'Shul Reishis, which is Teda, which is what we're celebrating tonight. B'Shul Reishis, B'Shul Yisrael, Lid Reish, that Mahat HaKap, and Menutz the Kap, Falen and Teda, and Yashar Kel, that we have a straight connection and to the Eibishter. I realized when I was sitting here, some people were texting me about this or that, and there was no connection. I couldn't reply. I had to go over there. What does it teach us? Sometimes a person feels he's connected. He sits in his home, and he sits in his corner, and he's connected. I'm connected. I'm good. I'm a Jew. I'm a Yid. I look like a Yid. I look like a Chassid. I'm connected. It's all good. But sometimes, no, it teaches us you have to go out of your Dal Damas. You have to go somewhere else. You have to go to Shir Teda to truly connect. Go with a Chabura, and Ateda Niknes Ale B'Chabura. There's many letters from the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Rebbe about learning Dafka with a Shir. A Shir is not something, sometimes you push off Rambam till 2 in the morning, to whatever, and then you read it and so on. When there's a Shir, there's a set time. So it really makes it a Davar Kavua, Belev, Benefesh, or B'Mokim. I'd like to finish off with the Inyan of that Sukkah. Yuma is the Inyan of Yom Kippur, which was it was the Yom HaKodesh, from the Yom HaShana, from Zman, it was the holiest day of the year. And then you had the holiest person in the holiest place, in the Mokim, the holiest place. So now we go into from Yuma, which is the Inyan of the actual timing, Yom Kippur, the Yom HaKodesh. Goes into Sukkah. Sukkah is that you bring about the holiness of Kedusha within your Sukkah, within your Dal Damas. And Beya is that it's known that food, which we make tonight, we make a Siyum that becomes Basa Kipsara Dam, it becomes Dam of Basa Kipsara of a person, elevates a person if it's eaten properly and with the brachas and so on, elevates so we become the Bechia Nivraim. But it says in Tanya that the true food of a person is the Beya, the food represents really is the Inyan of Teda. That a person elevates himself and becomes the Bechia Nivraim by learning Teda on a day-to-day basis. And then he elevates himself, or elevates, as was mentioned before, those around him. And then was Zeichet to the Inyan of Bereshis, which is Yisrael Teda, Yisrael Yisrael. And Im Hashem was Zeichet through that to the Isgalus of Melech Mashiach. Chaim.
Amen. I want to acknowledge the presence of a chassid. I was able to see the Frierdiker Rebbe, Rabbi Posner is with us, Rabbi Yidden with us, Rabbi Turk, and Rabbi Afton also from the Crown communities. It's very, very special. And the Rebbe Zog Nish forgets Machna Bracha. Friend of those that washed, how many washed over here? Not one, not two, not three. We're out fun. Yes, it's all Rabbi so from the Simon. Share my list. There's a couple ones.